Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about love in the middle years. From the most romantic songs and movies to fun date night ideas, we've got Valentine's Day covered. We'll also share how to identify your love language and the ways this has impacted our own marriages through the years. Let's get started. Hi, Mindy.
Hey, Marie.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Marie.
We are back, listeners, with another episode of Midlife Matters. Today we're going to give a nod to Valentine's Day with some fun trivia and quiz questions. And also we're going to talk a little bit about the different ways that love looks in midlife. Are you guys ready for this, Julie and Mindy?
So excited.
Sure.
So I came up with these questions. They weren't necessarily ones they would have picked to answer, but I can't wait to hear what they say. But anyways, before we get to the questions, let's start out with a little bit of trivia. How much do you guys know about Valentine's Day on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'd
1,
say
2, maybe 3.
Well, then I'm going to be raising your knowledge. Julie, you know 6? Wow, you'll probably be teaching me some things. All right. Well, then we'll start out with Julie. Who started Valentine's Day and how long has it been around?
It was a priest, a Saint Valentine. He was marrying people because marriages were banned in like Roman times or something. So maybe like 1,500 years ago.
Yeah. There's some controversy regarding dates, but it was somewhere in the early hundreds AD. I saw a lot of different dates, so I'm just going for early hundreds. All right, you guys. Mindy, I bet you might know this one. How many dozens of roses are sold each year on Valentine's Day? Take a guess.
Oh my gosh, that's in the Valentine's Day movie, and Ashton Kutcher is talking about it. Which I remember Ashton Kutcher. I don't remember what he said.
Overall, people will spend $1.9 billion on flowers.
Oh, wow.
That is so much. Here's an interesting statistic I came across. 15% of women admit they send themselves flowers on Valentine's Day.
That's kind of cool, though. Like,
okay, have y'all ever done that?
I have not
but I'm
done
thinking
that.
it's a great idea, actually. I mean, if you want some fresh flowers, why not?
Oh, yeah,
you get
for
to pick
sure.
what you want.
Definitely.
I think I did go buy them one time.
How beautiful is it to have fresh flowers, like on your island or kitchen table or something? It's just
I
really
love having them around.
beautiful. Yeah.
Well, here's another one. It says 61% of men say they would like to receive flowers from a woman on Valentine's Day. Do you believe that statistic? I've never bought my husband flowers. Have you guys?
No.
He would not know. He would think I lost my mind.
Thanks. So Bryce would be like, "Oh, so you bought these for yourself?"
All right. Well, how many couples get engaged? This is an interesting one. Do either of you guys have a guess on how many couples you think get engaged on Valentine's Day?
1,000.
Oh my goodness, you're way low, Mindy. Yeah,
Oh.
Julie's a little closer. Well, actually, I don't even think the internet knows because I literally found the range from 1 to 7 million. 1 million to 7 million. That's a big range, but obviously there's a lot.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Another big thing for Valentine's Day are Valentine's Day cards. Anyone have a guess on how many millions of Valentine's Day cards are sent out each year?
Glad you put us in the millions off the bat there.
Yeah.
5 million.
I'm going with 50.
You guys are way under 145 million Valentine's Day cards. Guess who receives the most Valentine's Day cards?
Teachers.
Yes, teachers. Yeah, teachers actually receive the most cards annually, followed by children,
Okay.
followed by mothers, followed by wives. Wives are in 4th place. Why are we last?
I thought the whole thing was for us.
I know.
Mystified. I'm over here. I'm mystified by that.
Yes. All right. Well, here's our last question. How much do you think is the average amount that U.S. consumers each spend on Valentine's Day? Gifts and meals.
I'm going to say $100.
We're going low here, so I'm going to say 500.
500.
That's low?
Whoa.
I went with 100.
No, I meant we've been underestimating these
Oh,
things.
okay.
That's true, Julie. That's true. Okay.
Well, it's somewhere in the middle. It's $144. So that is
Aw.
way more than I will personally spend on Valentine's Day. So someone's probably making up for my lack of celebration.
It's true. That's
Somebody's
why,
spending $500
That is right.
to balance out my zero.
exactly.
Well, it says that consumers plan to spend an average of $88 on their partners. Sorry, Steve, I'd never reached that threshold. $25 on other family members, such as children and parents. $7 on children's classmates and teachers. $7 on friends. I never spend any money on friends for Valentine's Day. $5 on their pets. Julie, do you ever buy a Valentine's Day gift for your pets?
No, but I bet Benny's going to get something.
I'll have to. I want to at least keep up the average for pets. Okay. And then people are probably going to be spending about $5 on coworkers. I don't know that Steve buys any coworkers anything for Valentine's Day, and I wouldn't be too happy if he did.
You
That's
know
a
what's
little
funny?
strange.
Just this morning, though, you guys, where Bryce works at the hospital, he was filling out all these little cards. He said, I'm buying candygrams for all of my workers.
Oh, well, that is so
And I was
fun.
like, oh, well, good for you. I'd never heard of that. But I guess if your workplace has something, then you would,
Yes.
participate.
Yes, a candygram, that's a cute idea. Obviously, Valentine's Day is big business, and we don't want to overlook such an important holiday on Midlife Matters. So I took the liberty of compiling some top 10 lists, and we're going to dive deep into all the traditional romantic gestures that could possibly occur on Valentine's Day. So are you guys ready, Julie and Mindy?
I'm ready.
So ready.
All right, we're going to start with the movies. I don't know any women that don't enjoy a good romance, and Hollywood has certainly turned out some great ones over the years. Julie and Mindy, here are some movies that consistently make the list for most romantic movies of all time. Pretty Woman, Gone with the Wind, The Wedding Singer, The Notebook, Dirty Dancing, Titanic, You've Got Mail, Love Actually, 10 Things I Hate About You, and When Harry Met Sally. Which one or ones are your favorites and why? Who wants to go first?
I like several on that list, but
Okay.
I have to depart from the list to give you my all-time favorite.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it was While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock.
Oh, that's so cute, too.
Yes,
I
I
love
love
that
that
movie.
movie.
I love the very end when Bill Pullman, who is the brother of the guy she initially is in love with, comes to ask her to marry him, and he drops the ring in her subway booth that she works in. His whole family's there to watch because they want him to marry her. And she said yes. And then it ends with her narrating. It says, life doesn't always turn out the way you plan, but Jack gave me the perfect gift, a stamp in my passport. And I guess you might say he gave me the world.
Oh,
And I
that's
just
so
love that
cute.
one.
Yes, and
I
now
do
that you
too.
quote it, I totally remember it.
That is one of my favorites. Oh,
Yes, I
Way
think
to
we
go,
could
Julie.
probably take off The Wedding Singer, unless you were going to be picking
Yeah.
that one, Mendy, and we could put
No.
Oh,
on.
I like that movie, though. That's
Well, I
funny.
liked it, but is it one of the most romantic ones of all time? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
no.
But Drew Barrymore movies are
I do
romantic
love her.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yes, While You Were Sleeping should definitely be on that list.
Oh, I agree.
All right, Mindy, what did you pick?
The most romantic movie, I think, is The Notebook, which is on our list. But the very first time I watched it, it totally made me ugly cry at the end when you realize that he's telling his wife the story of how they fell in love and she doesn't remember. And you're just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this movie has wrecked me. It's just so beautiful. Because you don't realize when you're watching it that it's the same couple. Just the love that he has for her, even in the end when she doesn't remember, is just so beautiful. So y'all know how I feel about crying, though. It makes me mad. So I don't watch that movie because I'm like, I'm going to cry.
You know, I've never seen that movie.
You
Oh, and
haven't,
I just
Julie?
told you what
and that's
happened.
why, no, but I am never going to watch it because I've heard about it. It's too sad.
It is beautiful. Oh, it's so beautifully done.
Oh, well, that's neat.
Yeah. How about you, Marie?
Well, I have to go back to high school. I love Pretty Woman.
Oh,
I have not really seen that. I went to see it a couple times when I was in high school at the theater. And then I probably saw it in my early 20s, maybe rented it. And I have not seen it since then. And I know if I were to watch it right now, it would not hold up. But in my mind, I loved that movie. Now, the premise is completely ridiculous. A rich guy picks up a prostitute. They fall in love. But I'm telling you, it obviously appealed to a lot of people.
Yes, it did.
Do you remember those like little things you would get in the mail where you'd order like 10 cassette tapes for 1 penny and then so I ordered the Pretty Woman soundtrack. I knew every song and just the music. I love it. But I'm speaking as somebody in high school. I've not seen it as an adult, and I wouldn't like recommend it for my girls to model their romance after.
Right. Okay.
But I almost got it out of the library this week, but I thought, no, I don't want to ruin the memory.
That's true.
All right, let's move on to books. Again, even if you don't like to read, can any woman resist a good romantic novel? Top 10, compiled from a few different lists. Pride and Prejudice, Outlander, Jane Eyre, Gone with the Wind, Sense and Sensibility, The Notebook, Whitney, My Love, A Knight in Shining Armor, The Princess Bride, or Twilight.
I really like Gone with the Wind. And I also love any Jane Austen book. But recently I read a book that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's called Me Before You, and it was made into a movie.
Yes.
I loved the book. It's actually part of a trilogy. The first book, though, really was my favorite because it's really a love story of a quirky English girl who falls in love with a quadriplegic man. And so just the slow build of their relationship, and he really changes her life like forever. So it just was a beautiful story.
It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it a lot, too.
Okay. Yeah, I loved that book.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely have to go with Gone with the Wind. It's my hands down favorite book. I've probably read it 10 times in my life. And the witty and beautiful conversations and between Rhett and Scarlett, I just love them. I melt every time.
Oh, yes.
Julie, what would be your pick?
You can probably guess from that list which one's mine. Because I've talked about it.
Pride and Prejudice? Or
No,
Sense and
Jane Eyre.
Sensibility? Oh, Jane Eyre. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm a bad guesser.
Yes, I remember her. Yeah, talking about Jane Eyre.
I talked about that I read it in the fall.
Oh,
but
that's
I do love
Right.
Jane Austen's books that are movies. I don't enjoy reading her, but I do love her movies.
Right.
And I think all of the dialogue is very romantic in those movies. But
Yeah, I mean, there are so many romantic books I've read in my lifetime. I think the list could be like 500 books long.
Right. Well, especially since you said that's your favorite kind of like fluff book.
All right. Top 10 Valentine's Day gifts. So these were just some popular gifts that I pulled from several places, but you guys tell me what you would want your husband to bring home. So here's a really great title. Bath & Body Works Warm Vanilla Sugar Body Wash. I mean, that just sounds good. Flowers, Ugg slippers, lingerie, jewelry, candy, cards, perfume, gifts of experience, or subscription boxes. Those would be like your fruit of the month or your sock club or your beauty products. So if your husband's going to pick out a gift, what appeals to you guys on that list?
Well, I actually got one of those gifts. It actually wasn't for Valentine's. It was for Christmas, but he picked it out totally on his own, and I didn't see it coming, and it was one of my favorite gifts ever.
Oh.
It was the Ugg slippers.
Oh, I've heard those are really good.
Oh my goodness. It's heaven. Like, you don't want to wear socks. You put your feet in there. It's on that lamb's wool.
Wow.
They are the best slippers.
Yes,
John did
I
really
have heard
good.
that. I always feel like, would my feet just be burning up though? Are they too hot?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
But my feet are always cold, so I don't know.
Right,
But,
right.
If you don't wear socks, you want to be barefoot in them.
So I'm thinking since it's okay to buy yourself flowers on Valentine's Day, it's okay to buy yourself some Ugg slippers on Valentine's Day.
You are allowed to do that.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, what would you want Bryce to bring home for you?
He knows this too. And he did it last year, but hands down, it's a gift of experience.
Okay.
Last year, he listened to our podcast. He knew I wanted to go skydiving. So he bought me a session at iFly Philadelphia where I got to go and simulate skydiving.
Oh.
So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, absolutely. I want to just do stuff together.
Right, right. Yeah, I think gifts of experience would probably be my favorite too. And, I'm not good at thinking of things to do, but I'm going to give a shout out to Steve because a few weeks ago, he knows that I've always liked Ronnie Millsap. But I never think of going to any concerts. Like, I never look on anything. And he said, hey, Ronnie Millsap's going to be at the Country Music Hall of Fame. Do you want to go? And at first I was like, no, we can't do that. But then I thought, well, why not? Well, anyways, we went to see him, and the day that we were going, he looked it up and he's like, hey, did you know that he'd had 40 number one hits? And I was like, oh, wow. I forgot about that. I mean, I knew, like, as a child, I used to love to listen to my dad's 8-track of Ronnie Millsap, so I knew he'd been around for a long time, and I really liked him.
8-track.
Yeah, but I didn't know he'd had 40 hits. So I got on Apple Music, and I started listening to all of his songs the whole afternoon, like, kind of getting in the mood, and then Steve said he'd been doing that all afternoon, and we went that night. And we had such a fun time. I did not know that he was already 77 years old. I did not know that. Yeah, but it was a fun show. It was a fun experience because it just brought back a lot of memories. When somebody's been recording that long, every song they play brings back a flood of experiences and memories.
From every decade.
And I thought that was so fun, and he did such a great job thinking of that. And left to my own devices, I never would.
That is way to go, Steve. That was very thoughtful.
Yeah. So think of some more of those and bring them home for Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say to John is I would just love him to plan the day. It's not so much about what we do, but if he just said, hey, we're going to lunch here. We're going to see this movie or we're going to do this. Not, what do you want to do? Just to take the initiative and plan it. I'd probably be happy with whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree, Julie. I like when they think about it and they want to make it special.
For sure. All right. Top 10 romantic destinations. Julie, I have a feeling that you had a hard time deciding on just one of these. Okay. So the list is Isle of Skye, Scotland, Kyoto, Japan, the Maldives, Big Sur, California, Bora Bora, Northern Lights, Iceland, Hawaii, Paris, France, or Venice, Italy. All right, Julie, what did you pick?
Well, I picked Isle of Skye, Scotland.
Ooh.
We're actually going to Scotland in the summer, and that's one of our places that we want to go. And I would love to see the Northern Lights. That's kind of something on my bucket list. Aww. So I looked up, can you see the Northern Lights from the Isle of Skye? And it's actually a very good place to see them from, because in my mind, kind of a big conflict, because I thought, if I'm going to see the Northern Lights, I'm going to have to be somewhere like the North Pole, like really cold and miserable. But unfortunately, you can't see them in the summer because it stays daylight all day, all night long.
Okay.
I'll have to go back.
Yeah. Now, Isle of Skye, tell us what Isle of Skye is known for. Like, what is its appeal? Would we know it from like a movie, or what would it be?
Actually, I think some of the new Star Wars movies might have been filmed on the island, but I don't know. I hadn't really heard of it till we started researching it. But it's off the western coast of Scotland, and it's just these big, craggy cliffs with green grass. Mm-hmm. Just beautiful views.
Right.
I don't think there's a lot of people, or, I think it's pretty remote. And
well, obviously it's romantic if it's on these lists.
Wow. So. Yeah.
All right, Mindy.
Everywhere except Iceland.
I picture you at the beach, some place warm and sunny.
That's why I was like, I don't want to go to Iceland. It's cold.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you had said that you wanted to go to Italy.
Yes, that will probably be the first place we visit. Mm-hmm. But any one of these, I'm like thrilled to death to go to.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Where would I go? I think that I want, and I am going to go here, but I think I have to start out with what's known as the most romantic city in the world, Paris. Oh, Paris. I mean, how can I go anywhere else if I haven't even seen the most romantic city?
That's true.
Just you and Steve and the twins.
That's right.
The only little downside about our trip is we are with the kids, but Maybe we can leave them in the hotel room while we go out to dinner or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's flexibility there. They're old enough.
Yes.
We were in Paris with David and another family on our 30th wedding anniversary. So we left David behind and just the two of us went out on a dinner cruise on the Seine.
Oh,
it was
that
really
sounds
nice. You need
really
to do that.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Dinner cruise on the Seine. All right. Well, since we've spent all our money on dinner cruises and traveling overseas, I thought we would come up with some cheap top 10 date ideas. So the Dave Ramsey website is great for this. And here are some cheap dates that he suggests. Okay, you tell me which one appeals to you. Browse at a bookstore, take a dance lesson, celebrate the year you met by watching a popular movie or listening to music from that year, enjoy a hike, concert in the park, cook a fancy meal together, eat takeout by candlelight, play miniature golf, go bowling, or borrow or rent bikes. That's a great list. I feel like I would be happy doing quite a lot of them. Mindy, what would you pick?
I agree with you, Marie. I feel like a lot of those would be a lot of fun. But hands down, the thing that Bryce and I continue to choose together is hiking. We love to forge a new trail, see new sights, new beautiful vistas. I love the physical exertion of reaching, a point. And just our conversation along the way is always so stimulating. So hiking, hands down, is always what we choose to do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Julie, what do you guys pick?
Well, I was really intrigued by the celebrate the year you met. So I started looking, I was like, okay, we met in 1986. And I looked up the movies and the music from that year. Our first date was actually Hannah and her sisters.
Oh, gosh. I remember you telling us that.
I still find John watching that movie periodically. I think he just loves it. It's a Woody Allen movie.
Yeah, it's a Woody Allen movie.
So depressing.
I've never seen it.
I would not choose that one, but we love the movie The Money Pit. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, that's really cute.
And that was 1986.
Okay.
So we would probably watch that. And then I got on Spotify and hit 1986 playlist. And I loved all those songs. So I think we might do that.
Yeah, name one of them just to refresh my memory so I can get in the feel of what was a song from that era.
Steve Winwood, Higher Love.
Oh, yes.
The Next Time I Fall, Peter Cetera.
Oh, well,
Lionel
who doesn't
Richie,
love him?
Say You, Say Me.
I mean, there's a lot of good ones.
Say me.
Yes, for sure. That would be a fun one. Now, it did suggest that you dress the part if possible. Do you still have any of your clothes from 1986?
John probably does.
You can pull out one of those Laura Ashley dresses, Julie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, with the big collar.
Put some big shoulder pads in my clothes.
Right. That's right.
My hair up.
Pull out the pantyhose.
Oh, how funny. Yes. Well, I felt like I would pick either borrow or rent bikes. I love bike riding if it's not for actual exercise, if it's like pretty neighborhoods and things like that. And then also I feel like it would be really fun to take a dance lesson together. We did take some dance lessons together early on in our marriage. I think it was like ballroom dancing. And then we did take line dancing lessons when that was popular. But we have not taken any dance lessons in years. So I think that would be really fun. Steve, that might be a good idea for you for Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
That's a gift of an experience, dancing.
Yes, it is. It is. We've done that before, too.
All right. Well, we cannot forget the music. No Valentine's Day would be complete without a love song. So according to top10s.com, here are some favorites. Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams. My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. I Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Aerosmith. Heaven by Bryan Adams. Amazed by Boys to Men, and I also, living in Nashville, really like the Lone Star edition. Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. You're Still the One by Shania Twain. I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Or Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. You guys, these are all good. How do we pick?
I can't believe Etta James is not on this list, though. Her voice and her...
she was on some of them. Like, there were so many lists to choose from. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right.
You're thinking of
I can't believe Chicago's not on there, too.
Or Chicago, or Air Supply.
Like, Hard Habit to Break, You're the Inspiration, Hard to Say I'm Sorry, any of those.
I mean, I think they all could be on there. So what are you guys picking? What love song should your husband have playing?
There's a lot. Anything by Chicago, Lionel Richie, Frank Sinatra's The Way You Look Tonight. That's old.
That is beautiful.
Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I think that, I love all these songs, but Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton is a classically lovely romantic song.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have always loved the You're Still the One by Shania Twain.
Uh-huh.
Because Bryce and I were married so young, we were 18 and 20. There's a line in that that talks about how people said that they wouldn't make it, just looking at the relationship. And people told us that, we were getting married so young. The chances of us surviving marriage was very, very low. So that song has always been meaningful to me. And it's beautiful.
It is. It is nice. I love knowing what appeals to people. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's not a quiz, but we wanted to talk a little bit about love languages. And I think the idea of love languages has become pretty mainstream, but I'll quickly summarize what I mean. And this is from the website called Crated with Love. So in 1995, The 5 Love Languages was written by Gary Chapman, and it's become more popular recently. The 5 love languages describe the way we feel loved and appreciated. Depending on our individual personality types, we may feel loved differently than how our partners do. And understanding and decoding these different ways will help take the guesswork out of meeting your partner's expectations and needs. And let me just quickly say what they are. So there's words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Mindy and Julie, how long have you known about love languages, and how did you find out what yours is?
I feel like I started hearing about love languages probably a couple of years after Bryce and I were married. We were married in 1997. So I would say around like the year 2000, maybe I kind of really started hearing about it. Ironically, just the other day in preparing for our podcast, I took the quiz again. There is a free quiz online.
Oh, okay.
To take to find out what your love language is. It's very short. It's very easy. I actually took the quiz again because there were 2 that I was like, well, is it this or this? Because I thought it could be either one.
All right. Well, we'll put a link to that quiz in our show notes. All right. So Mindy, what did the quiz tell you? What are you?
Apparently I love quality time.
Okay. Did you feel like it was between that and what else?
I thought it was between that and acts of service.
Okay.
I could see both of those, but it makes sense even by my answer of what Bryce and I would do like for a date. And that's hiking together. That's a perfect example of quality time.
Right.
There's no distractions. You're kind of, doing something together. And I love it. So even just a simple walk around our neighborhood, going to get coffee together. You could be at home or out, but just, quality time with anyone means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I can definitely see that one. Julie, what's your love language, and how long have you known it?
Well, I think we probably read that book when it came out. So I remember studying it, and I even read The Love Languages for Your Children. So I've studied it off and on through different phases of life. But mine is words of affirmation. And I like Mindy, I took the little quiz online, and I got an 11 on that. And it says the highest possible score is a 12.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
The next 2 were acts of service and quality time, and they were both 8s. And then the other 2 dropped off a lot lower. So I think, though, that when I first took it, when we were first married, I don't think words of affirmation was my love language.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think it was quality time.
Oh.
And
okay.
But that's still a close second. I don't know. I kind of think they go hand in hand, though. Like when you're spending time together, that's when you have the opportunity to talk and share things. So I think they go hand in hand. And I think I'm more comfortable with words now to give those words. So I think it's just kind of coming around that, oh, they are more meaningful to me now. So,
Right.
Well, I've never taken the quiz and I'm going to have to. I just felt like words of affirmation, just instinctively, that is my love language. And I'm not sure how long we've known about the love languages. I mean, at least 10 years, probably longer. And I do feel like it is helpful in our marriage. For words of affirmation, one thing that I was reading was that people whose love language is words of affirmation, that compliments and I love you and those things go a long way. And the flip side is that negative or insulting comments can hurt your partner and it could take them longer to forgive than others.
Right.
And this is so true for me, although I never put it together with words of affirmation, but I really react negatively and for a much longer time to comments that I feel are insulting or hurtful than I feel people around me do. You know, like I'll hold on to it longer. And it never occurred to me that might be the reason why.
Yeah. And that might be one way to tell if your love language is words of affirmation, if hurtful words kind of stick around a long time. And another way is to think about, what are you constantly asking from your spouse? Like, could you help me with this? Could you spend time with me for this? Or are you proud of me? You know, like, what are you asking of them? That'll give you a clue as to what you really value and how you communicate love.
Right.
I'm sure there's more science behind this thought, but Julie, you talked about it, how like earlier in the marriage, you don't think that necessarily words of affirmation was your love language. And I definitely have seen a shift in different levels of need for each of these 5, because we really need all 5, right? But there have been certain times in our marriage where I'll touch on this later, but like when the kids were little and like I had a baby in my arms all day, you know, and a toddler on my leg all day, I'm like, please don't touch me, like ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or when Bryce was working longer hours and I felt like I was doing everything around the house, you know, and for him to like vacuum the floor meant the world to me because he wasn't able to do it at that time, or, you know, as consistent with help. So I definitely think when you're overstimulated in one area, then you definitely feel like, no, I really don't need that. Or if there's a particular area that's really missing, you crave, you know, that thing.
Yeah. I think that's probably what that goes back to. When we were first married, I was in school, he was in residency. And I really craved time.
Right.
You know, that was a tangible way for me to know, okay, he cares, you know, because just to hear it or, you know, have him say it didn't mean as much as making that time, carving out that time for us.
Right. Yeah, I think time is definitely a close second for me. And when they were talking about the time and the no distractions, this rings so true. And you said a few weeks ago on a podcast, Mindy, that one of your goals was to not be like on your phone when you're watching TV with family members. And I thought, if any of my family members are listening, they're probably thinking, my mom never wants me to be on my phone when we're watching TV. Like if we're going to do an activity together, we're going to do an activity together, and people had better put their stuff away.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's important is to not just totally dismiss, like, I had a high score on the top 3 and then a pretty low score on 2 others.
Right.
But those are important because that may be the way your spouse communicates love or feels loved. Exactly. So you can't just say, and we don't need those. Those might be really important to them.
Right. Well, let's talk about our husbands. Julie, what's John's love language?
Well, I had him take the test. I feel like I knew what it was, but I wanted to see, you know, how they all ranked. And his was words of affirmation, but his score was only 8. And then the next one was 7, which was receiving gifts. And then acts of service was a 6, physical touch of 5, and quality time of 4. So he's
very close.
Yeah. So he needs everything.
Gosh, John, you're so needy.
They're all funny. Important.
I want it all.
But no, it was kind of revealing because I didn't, until recently, I hadn't thought about receiving gifts, but I've noticed he does like to give gifts. Like even when we're on a trip together, he'll kind of sneak off and buy me something. And I haven't asked for it. I haven't said I liked it. He'll just buy it for me.
Mhm.
So
Right.
lately, when I go somewhere, I normally think about the kids, or I was going to buy Ezra a gift on a recent trip. And I thought, no, I need to bring John something. He's going to be really disappointed if I don't come home with a gift for him. And it's hard to buy him gifts, but I found these really cute socks at Disney World that had all of his favorite treats on them. It had the Dole Whip, the cream cheese pretzels, and the little Mickey ice cream fudgesicles.
Oh my
that's so
goodness.
cute.
So
Those are
he
perfect.
loved them, and it was perfect.
Yes.
Aw.
That's so thoughtful. And I can see John
Yeah.
loving those. All right. Well, what's Bryce's love language, Mindy?
Bryce's love language is physical touch.
Okay. I think you've mentioned that before.
And one of my kids is physical touch as well. And so it's funny, and I talked about this earlier, but there was, the season in life of having children
Mhm.
where it was really hard for me to want to, sit close to Bryce on the couch, hold his
Mhm.
hand, because I felt like I was touched
All day long.
24 hours a day.
Yes.
When you're nursing a child and you've got toddlers and all that. Now, though, it's really fun because the kids all know he's very clear about wanting to touch people, right? In a good way.
Right.
But he's always like, asking the boys to come sit on him, or, want me to sit next to him on the couch, or putting his arm around me, or holding my hand when we walk and things like that. And so I love it a lot more now. But even for Christmas, he's like, everybody can just pile on. All of you just pile on me for, a little while. And he just feels so loved. He absolutely loves being mauled by his sons and his daughter.
Yeah. At some point, Mindy, when all the kids leave, you're going to be the only one responsible for all that physical touch.
That'll be the first time I give in and get a pet, maybe. I'll get Bryce a dog.
Yes.
Get him a lab.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, Steve's love language is definitely acts of service. And this is such a hard one for me because I don't see acts of service as a true expression of love. I see acts of service as these are necessary things that need to be done, and someone has to do them, and it's just the right thing to do for you to do them. And
You're so practical.
I know. And what do you want? A medal? Like, I'm doing things that need to be done too.
Right.
That's how I see it in my mind.
Poor Steve.
I know.
He's like, I'm Super Steve. I emptied the dishwasher. And Marie's
Yes.
like, yeah, you should have.
I know. And that it has been very good for our marriage for me to know that about him.
Right.
But it's extremely hard for me to get my mind around acts of service as being expressions of love. So I am going to give listeners example. Like when an act of service is a expression of love for me, it's got to be big. So I was sick right before Christmas, right after my son's wedding. And I put a picture of this on Facebook because as he was doing it, I was just struck by, oh my goodness, this is a real example of love. So I had been sick for a few days and I had not cleaned the cat box in a while. And you don't have to clean them weekly or anything anymore now that they have new kinds of litter. But so I had put it off and I said to Steve, oh, it's garbage night and I really wanted to clean the cat box and I just don't feel like I can. Would you please go out there and do it? And he never does any of Benny's chores. Like he doesn't have to scoop the litter. He doesn't have to feed him. Like he will if I absolutely said, would you? But he's not responsible for it. So
Right.
I could tell he was kind of weighing in his mind this cat box cleaning thing. And he did it. And as he was out there in the lawn spraying with the hose and the, soap and all that, I just thought, my son and daughter-in-law had just been married a few days before that. And you know how when you go to a wedding, of course the couple is really in love, but they don't really understand the kinds of things that they're going to do to express love over the years. And we
Right.
were about to celebrate our 26th anniversary. And I was thinking, this is how you express love 26 years into your marriage.
Mhm.
You scrub
Right.
the cat box when your wife has been sick for 3 days.
That's right.
And
What a
that
beautiful
wasn't on
example.
Davis and Maddie's minds at all.
No.
Mm-mm.
But that was a real act of service. And that when something like that's so out of the norm, that does stick in my mind.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
So, I know that if Steve didn't love me, he would not get out there and clean the cat box. He would say,
That's
well,
right.
next week is fine. Let's just wait till you feel better.
You'll be on your feet in no time, Marie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. Like, we don't have the same love language. Now, Julie and John,
Right.
you guys have the same love language. Is your
I
marriage just a
know.
constant state of bliss?
Right, exactly.
You know
Compliments
it is.
flying. Yes.
I mean, there must not ever be a bad word spoken in your house.
Exactly.
Leave it at that then.
Well, do you find that having the same love language, do you think is helpful?
Well, like I said before, that I am really good about thinking things and not saying them. So a lot of my words of affirmation are thoughts.
Okay, they're thoughts of affirmation.
I have thoughts of affirmation,
That's not on the
but
list.
he can't read my mind. So
Oh,
yeah,
man.
so that is hard for me. So sometimes I find it's easier to write them, send them a text.
Yes.
Right.
So
Yes.
yeah, I'm working on that.
Well, listeners, go to our show notes, take the quiz, and then have your husband take the quiz. And that would be a great thing if you don't already know to find out for Valentine's Day.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it really is helpful to know that about each other. I can now look for acts of service. Like when I'm feeling unloved, I can mentally say, oh, but there's this act of service or that act of service. I would
Right.
love to be able to say, well, there's this word of affirmation or this word of affirmation, because that's what really speaks to me and sticks in my mind. But I think
Right.
learning about the love languages makes you see how your partner is expressing love and appreciate that more.
Right.
Yeah, because you could feel unloved if like receiving gifts is very low and your husband gives you gifts all the time. You may
Right.
not even recognize that and say, "Oh, he just doesn't care," but you're overlooking the way he's expressing love.
That definitely comes with maturity in marriage to be able to show love how they feel loved,
Mhm.
not how you feel loved.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It takes a while to get to that point. And your partner may not ever be really outstanding in that area. And so I think it also comes to a point of maturity where you're like, well, I see they're trying in that area.
Mhm.
Right.
And I recognize these other areas.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
All right. Well, this was so fun. And we hope that all of our listeners have a wonderful Valentine's Day. But before we go, we need to do our I'm a Fan. Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of Downy Wrinkle Releaser Plus.
Ooh.
Yes.
And my friend Judy told me about this because they use it in their business. If they are installing draperies, you know, when they come out of the box, they're wrinkled.
Oh.
Right.
And this stuff is great. I have a tablecloth that I like to use on my dining room table, and I like the all cotton ones, so they are very wrinkled. Like even
Right.
if you've ironed it, when you fold it, all those folds stay in there.
Mhm.
And I don't like to iron. And even on the ironing board, it's so small compared to the size of the tablecloth. It just keeps getting more wrinkled.
Right.
So I pulled that tablecloth out and sprayed this stuff on. It was perfect. It was way better than any results that I would have gotten.
Does it
from
make your
ironing
tablecloth real wet? Like, how soon could you use it after spraying it?
Well, it was so wrinkled. I did have a few wet spots
Mm-hmm.
You
that I
doused it.
overdid. Yeah, I doused it. So I would say a couple of hours. So I did it in the morning for that night.
I bet
But-
it smells really good
Oh
too.
yeah, because
huh?
it's Downy. It has this light, fresh scent. And I was noticing when I looked it up on Amazon that it comes in travel sizes. So I think I'm going to buy a 3-ounce bottle
Oh, perfect.
so you could take if your clothes were wrinkled in a suitcase.
Yes, that's a great idea. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a huge fan of grilling out in the winter.
Oh, wow.
I say that because we had one beautiful, warm, sunny day this past week, and I keep some meat in the freezer, you know, all the time. But we were able to just pull out some German bratwurst and grill it, and it just made it feel so heavenly, you know,
Mhm.
being outside, being able to grill our food. And so even when it's freezing cold, it just gives you this sense of summer's coming,
Right.
spring is coming, this winter will last forever. I do. I love grilling in the winter.
Yeah.
Gives you hope.
Yes. And when I was at the
It
Y this
does.
morning, I noticed I'm not good at trees, but some kind of flowering pink tree was already starting to bloom.
I bet
And it's only the first
cherry
week of
trees.
February here.
Your cherry trees there should be in bloom.
Okay. Yeah. So spring is going to come, Mindy. We're going to get there.
It's going to be a while.
All right. Well, this week I'm a fan of updating your lighting. So we had Emily A. Clark on, and she is a design blogger that many of our listeners may have already been following. I've followed her for years, but she was so great. And if you have not heard that podcast, go back and listen to episode 64. But one of the things that she said to update your home, one of the easiest ways is to update your lighting. And I don't know about you, but after you've lived in a place for a while, you kind of stop seeing your stuff. And I had stopped seeing, I've stopped seeing a lot of my stuff, but my girls, they said, why don't you replace this chandelier that's over our kitchen table? And I thought, well, I just replaced that. But then when I really thought about it, I was like, well, no, actually, that was about 14 years ago. So yeah, I probably could replace that.
Oh, how funny. Yeah.
So anyways, I've been scouring different websites and I did order one, and I'm going to get Steve as one of his loving acts of service to hang it for me. And if it looks good, I will put a post on Instagram.
Oh, I'm excited for you. I've been wanting to replace a light fixture over my table. So I'm curious. I can't wait to see how that looks.
Yes. And then I was looking around and I was thinking, I've had this one lamp forever I'm not in love with. I could probably look for a new lamp. Like, I guess I'm just a fan of updating periodically, not having to do a whole big overhaul. But just picking some new things once in a while can really give you a fresh perspective and kind of love for your room.
Yeah, it can change. One little thing can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And especially at this time of year, I think it's fun to kind of do something neat inside before we move to looking at the outside of our homes.
Right. Well, especially the lighting, because if it is a lamp, you have it on a lot more time now than you would during the summer.
Yeah. So stay tuned, listeners. Come and follow us on Midlife Matters podcast on Instagram if you want to see what my light looks like. Now, if it looks terrible, I'm going to send it back to Amazon and order a new one. But I'm thinking it's going to look good.
I liked it when I saw with you holding it up.
Yes. So, all right. Well, Mindy and Julie, I hope you guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Listeners, I hope that you guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion of love at midlife.
It was fun.
Yes. We'll talk to you later, Julie and Mindy.
All right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. If you'd like to get the show notes for today's episode, please email your name and address to midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com and write show notes in the subject line. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.